guys, welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, hello, hi, my name is Jyotsna and thank you so much for being on this journey with me for the end of the year series 2022. I do this every year at the end of the year, especially during Christmas and New Year's Eve, and I give out all the juicy deeds, all the bookish things that I've done throughout the year and telling them to you on this particular screen. So thank you so much for staying. I am linking the playlist of the end of the year series down below, so do go ahead and check it out. So getting to the point of this particular video, right? Let me tell you, nonfiction is bae. I love reading nonfiction. I read political, historical, social nonfiction, and I tend to read a lot of it throughout the year, be it international nonfiction or Indian nonfiction. And this video is to tell you about my top 10 reads of 2022 in nonfiction. If you want to see some other recommendations, other videos for the same, I'm linking some videos down in the description box so that after this video, maybe you can go and check out my other recommendations as well. The 10th book in the list is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. And for those of you who do not know who the author is, she was one of the characters on iCarly on Nickelodeon, and honestly I've not watched the show, so for me understanding this a person's life was very interesting. And it mainly talks about how she was pushed into acting by her mother, how she had to deal with a lot of abuse from her mother and also the industry in general, and how it has affected her a lot. The book is heartbreaking. It is pretty much the unraveling of a dream, because when you watch actors or especially child actors on TV, it basically you feel like, okay, fine, maybe they're having the time of their lives, and maybe they are like getting richer at a very young age, but that's actually not always the fact, because this book kind of tells you the dark reality of being a child actor. I read this on audio and I highly recommend this. Of course, there are a lot of trigger warnings, so you may want to get into it slowly, steadily, but the audiobook has been narrated by the author herself, which makes the effect of the audiobook pretty much like, it makes it hard hitting. Book at number 9 is This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. And let me tell you, this is a hilarious memoir of Adam Kay's experiences being a doctor in the NHS. And it's witty, it's really sarcastic, it's funny as well. And, listening to the audiobook, I was like laughing my heart out because there are a lot of things. But the underlying message of this particular book is how doctors are treated in today's society, and on how we do not consider doctors to have mental health issues, considering the pressure that is put on them. The book is enlightening, at the same time funny. It has an underlying purpose of being written. So absolutely recommend it. Highly recommend it, to be honest. Adam Kay is actually a very funny and a nice writer. My 8th book in this list is Coming Out as Dalit by Yashika Dutt. Now, this is something that I had read for my On Reading Nonfiction group read. So it is a group read where we kind of read nonfiction books on a 45-day basis. And this book specifically talks about Yashika Dutt's experience of growing up as a Dalit or someone from a low caste. It talks about how there were a lot of insecurities that she had, how being someone from a low caste, they tried to climb up, or her family tried to climb up the ladder. And more importantly, it addresses the issue of reservation as it is seen in the society today, and a lot of other aspects and stigmas that is associated with people from a lower caste. Honestly, if you're an Indian, I highly recommend you read this book. If you're looking for a non-fiction read, Dalit Lit Month, or to read more Dalit authors, this is a book that you should pick up for sure. The next book is again from an Indian author. It is In the Language of Remembering by Aanchal Malhotra. Now, if you do not know who Aanchal Malhotra is, you've been living under a rock. I'm putting down a video down in the description box. Please go and check it out. Aanchal Malhotra is an oral historian who covers the partition, and who is someone who has written books about the partition, right? Her first book is Remnants of a Separation, and this is her follow-up book to Remnants of a Separation, and it is a huge book which talks about how partition has affected the second and third generations, and how a lot of political aspects, social aspects of their families, of their lives are different because of the partition. It is a very interesting read. I absolutely love the book a lot. Of course, you need to take your time with it considering it's a very huge book, but I highly recommend reading Remnants of a Separation before reading this, because like I said, this is more of a follow-up to that book. If you want more context or from where all of it started, you should read Remnants of a Separation. Book at number 6 for me is Bad Blood by John Carreyrou, and this is a piece of investigative journalism from the Silicon Valley. This book basically explores the Theranos scandal, the entire scandal with Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes. I think that's her name, and how she fell into total disgrace. This book is an epitome of investigative journalism. I absolutely love this book because the author himself unearthed the entire scandal. He himself, unearthed all of the wrongdoings that this startup in Silicon Valley was doing, and how it was cheating and intimidating people who were planning to, come out and expose these guys. A total story like right out of a Bollywood movie. The book reads like a thriller for sure. And as of today, the trial is done. Elizabeth has been found guilty at this point of time. And I'm telling you, I went into an entire rabbit hole, because after the book, I also started listening to the author's podcast, and I followed the entire case after that, like wherever it was at that point of time. I picked it up from there. And yeah, I absolutely loved and devoured this book. 100% recommend, 100% awesome. Now let's get to the top 5 books. This is like the top 5 that you have to read. The 5th book in this list is Bottle of Lies. Bottle of Lies by Catherine Eban is an expose on the Indian generic drug industry. It's a truth pill. It is a bitter pill that we all need to swallow as Indians. And if you're an Indian, you have to read this book for sure. The book basically focuses on Ranbaxy and their misdoings, their misdeeds, all of the things they did to evade a lot of quality checks, a lot of regulation, and a lot of violations that they did when it comes to the due diligence of a drug. And as I'm speaking, there are more pharma companies who are doing the same. For example, Uzbekistan has accused one of the Indian generic drug producers of manufacturing faulty cough syrup, because 18 kids died in Uzbekistan by drinking that cough syrup. So this is the reality. This is what happens when you do not manufacture good drugs. This is exactly what happens when you do not have good regulatory standards, and you do not put that form of due diligence into manufacturing. A must read for all Indians, an eye-opening read as well, especially because all of us are consumers of the pharmaceutical industry. The next book in this list is My Fourth Time We Drowned by Sally Hayden. Sally Hayden is an Irish journalist. She's an investigative journalist. And honestly, please read this book on audio, because this book talks about the plight of refugees and how the European Union are paying Libyan Coast Guard and all to keep them away from the gates of Europe. It is a pure case of evil politics. It is a pure case of humanitarian efforts, and honestly this book is a must read, especially in audio, because you can listen to people from the refugee camp talking to you. You can listen to all the voice notes that these refugees who are at Libyan concentration camps, mind you, are sending the author and telling them about the plight, about their situation. Things have still not improved. They were at an all-time high 3 to 4 years back, and that's when this book was in the making. But when as of today as well, these regulations, or whatever you call them, these anti-humanitarian efforts by the European Union are still existent, and they are still being very persistent that they won't allow any refugees in their country. But allowing refugees in a country is a different thing, but treating them like they are the worst scum on earth, that's like a total no-no, right? Because you know what happens in concentration camps and in labor camps. So this book is an eye-opening read about the refugee crisis in the world. The third book in this list is The Silent Coup by Josie Joseph. Now, if you've not read this book yet, I highly recommend you do so, especially if you're Indian. This is the book that you should read. This is a great piece of investigative journalism that's based in India, and it talks about how the security establishment lies its way out of situations. It is a very bitter pill to swallow again, but it is a fact. It is a fact about how the Indian security establishment does a lot of things that are kind of unethical and that kind of borderline on a lot of human rights violations. And this is the fact, this is the truth. Highly recommend this for sure. That's all I can tell you. Read the book to find out more. Then the second book in this list is something I read for the BookTube Prize, and that is Facing the Mountain by Daniel James Brown. Now, this is a story from World War II. It is a true story from World War II where the Japanese Americans were put in camps. They were incarcerated just because they were Japanese Americans and just because Japan was at war with America. And eventually, later on, when America realized that they're falling short of men in the army, they actually had the audacity to even approach these camps, take some of these people, right, and enlist them in the army. And this is the story of those people. This is the story of these heroes who fought for America despite their families being in camps, despite all the atrocities that they had to face or their families had to face in the US during World War II. I highly recommend this book if you do not know much about the subject, and I highly recommend it especially because of its subject matter and its storytelling format. And finally, this gets me to my book number one. And if you are an avid follower of me on Instagram or anywhere, I have spoken about this book before, and that is The Ivory Throne by Manu S. Pillai. Now, Manu S. Pillai as an author is not new to me. I have read one of his books before, but this book literally hits home. It is the author's baby as well because he's written a thesis on it, and that's a whole another backstory altogether. But this book is a gem. It basically talks about the House of Travancore, the royals of Travancore, and it talks about all their shenanigans, their story, especially focusing on Rani Setu Lakshmi Bai, who was one of the queens or princesses in that particular family. Amazing book, mind-blowing. I really loved reading it from the start till the very end, and the amount of research that's gone into the book, that's mind-blowing as well. So this list would not be complete without some extra recommendations that I have to put here. The first one is Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow. Then I have Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe. An Era of Darkness by Shashi Tharoor, and How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith. So yes, that's it. Those are my top 10 books with some extra recommendations for you to select. Of course, I will keep doing these videos, and there are a couple of more videos that will come up soon. So I'm hoping that you stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for watching this. I will see you in my next one. Bye.